discussing the module 9 of the organic chemical technology course, and we have discussed the how the chemical industry in the various modules. We have discussed the how the chemical industry that has been playing important role in meeting the basic demands of the mankind, and the how the growth that has been there, what are the driving force for the growth of the organic chemical industry, and starting from the soap to detergent, from fertilizer to your means the ammonia which we discuss, ammonia to pesticide, and then the petroleum to petrochemicals, then the final end products, the large means the polymer, elastomer, and the synthetic rubber we discussed. But in all making, one of the very important actually sector of the Indian chemical industry is there, which is the, although it is not as a basic needs it is providing, but it is being used for making our life more colorful. And you can see the how the various actually the dyes, that is whether you are celebrating the Holi or you are wearing the colorful cloth, you are having the colorful toys, we are having the colorful, now the lot of the color pens we are using, where we may be using the pigments, and the a large number of other woolen blankets, carpets, everywhere you are using huge amount of the dyes in some or other form. So, this is the, you can see the various sets. Now, the requirement of the set that has changed in the paper, it is not confined to the only the because earlier when people are talking about the dyes, and they are thinking only it is being used for the textile purpose. It is the wide application in the large number of the area that will be discussing about the, when we are discussing in detail about the dyes intermediate, because it is not confined to the textile, it is the paper, it is the leather, it is other number of the application of the, here is you see the even here color, different color we are maintaining, different color of the threads we are maintaining, and again the dyeing of the cotton, and then the synthetic fiber, because the different type of the fiber they require the different type of the dyes, and that was the one of the initial problem when we started making synthetic fiber dyeing. That was also one of the, because what we need fastness of the dye. So, these are the some of the issue involved, and at the same time environmental concern, that is also one of the important the factor in case of the dyes and dyes intermediate manufacture. So, the coverage of the lecture, that will be introduction, classification of the dye, production of the major dyes, chromophore in the important class of dyes, color index, install capacity of the dyes, environmental issue, classification, and the process application based dyes. The dye stuff industry plays important role in the overall growth of the chemical industry. The preparation and usage of the dye stuff is one of the oldest forms of the human activities. The usage of the natural dye stuff, because the God have provided, the nature has provided the natural colors. Earlier when it was not, no color was available, no synthetic color or the manufacture of the color, the various actually the natural material was there, and even you see the various type of the foods, we are not using any color, but it is the God gifted or it is the natural color that is available in those. Similarly, the some of the colors was available in the nature. Just you take the rose is the, your color is the red color. If you take the some of the vegetables, they are having the different color. So, this is the how the dyes from the oldest forms of the human activities, that is the usage of the natural dye stuff dates back to 3000 year old wild Flavozone age. Archaeological evidence shows that the particularly in India and the phonic has been extensively carried out for over 5000 years. The dyes were obtained from the animal, vegetables or mineral origins with no or little processing. So, this was the original route of getting the your dye. First synthetic organic dye, Mavin, was discovered by William Henry Perkin in 1856. There is also mention of the dye in the Bible and other works of the classical antiquity. It was in 26,000 BC when earliest written records of the use of the dye stuff were found in China. Synthetic dye stuff now available in several colors or set are amongst the oldest chemicals produced by the man. Now dyes are available in the wide variety of shades to meet the requirement of different shades in all the material. You see the whether you are taking the cloth, you are taking the paper, you are taking the plastic material, different type of the color, even the color coated color that you are finding on the metal, colorful metallic materials are available for the decoration purposes. Colors are an integral part of the human perception and life, because this is making our life colorful, as I told you earlier also. Much before the invention of the synthetic dye stuff, natural and vegetable colors were in use in India for centuries. Dyes application is not limited to only textile, as I told you earlier, but also other commodities like paper, toys made of the plastic, colored plastic articles, leather, medicines. We must have seen the colors that we are also using the medicine, food products. You go to the sweet shop, you will find the different color of the sweets are available. Some are using the, although the food color, edible color that has to be used, but different. Even they are coloring the pulses also. Many of the material they are to give the better appearance. Even they have seen that the people they are coloring their vegetables also. So the product, the dyes, they are it is not limited to your textile. Cosmetics, different shades of the cosmetics that you will find, soap and detergent, they are also the color, different shades of the color that is available, the soaps are there. Detergent, bluish and the white is different colors are there. In case of the hair dyeing, people are using since long that the hair dye, and so that is also one of the dye. Sports good, waxes, different shades of the waxes that is available in the market. Inkjet, smoke, that is for the military operation that we are using the color. At a production of 130,000 metric ton per annum, Indian dye stuff industry contribute to just 7% of the world's global production. Textile, carpet and garment industry are one of the largest consumer of the dyes, because these are the huge amount of the dyes we are using. And depending upon the, so far the textile, carpet and garment industry concerned, depending upon the type of the, whether you are having the cotton material, whether you are having synthetic fiber, you are having the viscose, the requirement of the dyes and the consumption of the dyes increases. Even the, depending upon the type of the, you need the, because the color fastness, that is very important. So the textile, carpet and garment, these are the one of the largest consumer of the dyes. Growth of the textile industry has a direct impact on the growth of the dye stuff, and because you see the most of the textile industry, they were concentrated in the Maharashtra and the Gujarat, and you will find the large number of the manufacture of the dyes in those region of in India, that the Maharashtra and Gujarat are there. Other states are also dye manufacturers, and just take the case of the Kanpur, where also we are having the textile industry, and so there also some dye, but the major producer of the dyes are in Maharashtra and the Gujarat. Textile dye stuff had a worldwide market of around 5.7 billion. Largest category is the reactive and dispersed dye, which accounts for about 40% of the total value. Asia Pacific represents largest share and accounts for about 40% of the global share. So this already I discussed. The Perkins was the first person who discovered the synthetic dye. 1856 led to the birth of the European dye stuff industry, and use of the synthetic dyes widely extended to all textile substance. The well development of the textile in the Indian scene started use of the synthetic dyes and dependent on the imported, because that was totally the imported organic dye stuff till 40s, and after that, after getting the terminus, because as I told you earlier, the petroleum or the petrochemical industry, the revolution in the chemical production that started after coming of the petrochemical complexes and production of the chemicals from the same thing, because here also in case of the dye industry we are using the huge amount of the raw material which is derived from the petroleum route now. Earlier it was derived from the coal route, and which was the earlier route, as I told you in case of the many of the chemicals also, the coal to the calcium carbide and then acetylene and other routes were there, or the from the coke oven plant. If you see a large number of the aromatics we are producing which are being used in the dye industry, also in the case of the your pesticide manufacture. Dyes are the color, ionizing and aromatic organic compound which has affinity to substrate to which it is being applied. The dye is generally applied in an aqueous solution which may also require a mordant for improving the fastness of the material on which it is applied. Because fading of the color, that was the major issue earlier, but now you will find with the development of the large number of the dyes, now the color fastness is there and the your color fading is less. So, this is the one of the major development in case of the use of the dye in the textile industry that has been there. The overall production capacity dye stuff is 2 lakh tons per annum. With the ever increasing standards of the quality and reliability, Indian dye stuff industry meets more than 90% of the domestic requirement now. Out of its textile industry consume nearly 60% and remaining is shared by leather, paper and other consumer industry. Because as I told you earlier also that the dye or coloring of the fabric is not only there, but the dyes are also being used for the coloring of the wide variety of the material articles, starting from the paper, leather to cosmetics and so on, a number of the products which we discussed earlier. As far as the pigments, because the pigment is also one of the very important part of the dyes industry. So, as far the pigments are concerned, the market size is 1,15,000 tons. The main consumer industry are the printing inks, paints, plastics, rubber and accounting for about 70% of the total end use. These are the some of the data available from the Ministry of Chemical and Fertilizer, and from the annual report you can see that the installed and production of the dyes and dye stuff industry. So, this is the installed capacity and this is the production figure. Azo dyes, dispersed dyes, fast color bases, ingrained dyes, optical whitening agents, organic pigment color. So, this is the installed capacity and this is the production. This the figure is multiplied by 1000. The pigment emulsion, reactive dyes, sulfur dyes, bad dyes, solubilized bad dyes, naphthals, etc. So, this is the product wise installed capacity of the production, that is of the various dyes, capacity and production that is given there. Production is in the blue and this is your installed capacity. So, here you can see the capacity utilization is definitely lower in case of the dye stuff industry. This is also the various derivatives of the benzene, toluene and naphthalene, which are the major chemicals which are being used in making of the number of the your dyes, which are the azo dyes and other dyes are there, dispersed dyes. So, these dyes are consuming the raw material benzene, toluene or the naphthalene. Demand dye manufacture in India. Most of the dyes and intermediate industries are located in Gujarat and Maharashtra. Both these states are responsible for the 75% of the total output. As I told you earlier also, because these are the states where the textile industry that was developed, and the large number of the variety of the textiles starting from the cotton to polyester, the acrylic fiber that we are making, and so the major consumption is also there. And these are the list of the some of the major actually the manufacture of the dyes in Gujarat, Atul dyes and chemicals, Amar dyes, that is in Maharashtra also they are having the Gujarat unit, Kolar Jet, Mumbai, Jai Chemicals, Gujarat, Kevin's India, Siva dyes, Sandoz, Color Chem, and this is only the major manufacturers which are there, but a long list of the pesticides and these dyes manufacturers are there. Even some of the companies are there who are doing the only the marketing part of the, even for making of the so far the different shades are this of the same colors are concerned, that is also a art you can say, because they are mixing the different type of the dyes and making the different shades. So this is about the production of the pigments and major dye. So organic is 80% and the rest is your inorganic. So this is the acid disperse and the reactive dyes and other. So here again you can see the reactive disperse, acid dyes and the basic dyes are more. This is the then as I told you the earlier also, the environmental legislation, and environmental issues that has been main concern. Even while discussing the pesticide, I told you same problem is here also in case of the dyes. The various hazardous waste stream is generated during manufacture of dyes and intermediates. Many dyes like azo dyes, benzidine, hydrochloride and the benzene based dye stuff has been banned in India and in other part of the world. The environmental pressure has necessitated changes in process chemistry and technology and use of the safer and the eco-friendly raw materials. This is the broad classification of the dyes based on the dyeing process, based on the chromophore, based on the application, based on the color index. So, the acid dyes, basic dyes, direct dyes, type of the dyeing we are bad dyes, reactive dyes, dispersed dyes, type of the based on the dyeing up process. Based on the chromophore, acridine dyes, anthraquinone dyes, aryl methane dyes, azo dyes. So, this is based on the chromo, based on the application, food, cosmetic, drug, dyes, leather dyes, solvent dyes, contrast dyes, carbine dyes. So, different grades based on the application, also the classification of the dyes, because you see the food dyes that should be the for the edible dyes, that you can say that the, otherwise it will be, because many of the dyes are carcinogenic. So, you will have to take care while using the dyes for the coloring of the food material. Based on the color index that I will be discussing, what the color index that has been given to the different dyes, and based on this, because that is one of the broad method of classification of the dyes also, the based on the colors, if you are giving the color index number, so you can find the same shade of the dyes. Otherwise, lot of the variation from batch to batch is there while making the dyes. From one batch to another batch there may be the variation. So, the based on the color index we are maintaining the particular shade of the color. So, the just to summarize, because the how the dyes that has been classified, natural or synthetic dyes, because already I told you the earlier the route of getting the dyes by the natural material, and the nature has provided the different color of the material, and that was being used earlier, and synthetic dyes which are being made from the various chemicals that we are using, and the acid, azoic, basic, reactive, dispersed sulfur, optical brighteners, Leo dyes, electronic industry they are using oxidation dyes for hair, that we are using leather dyes, fuel dyes, smoke dyes, inkjet and sublimation. So, these are the different grades of the dyes that we are using in some or other form. Now, let us see the chromophore, because this is very important. Dyes are basically ionizing and ionizing compounds containing chromophores, which make the dyes proficient in their ability to absorb radiation. Oxochrome is the group of the atoms attached to a chromophore. This is responsible for providing solubility and the cohesiveness to the dyes. These are the different chromophore in the important dyes, the azo dyes, nitro dyes, and these are the actually the groups that is available: nitroso, ethylene, carbonyl group, carbon nitrogen group, and then the carbon sulfur group. So, this is the about the various chromophore in the important dyes, and based on this you are getting the another actually the classification that is based on the color index. Color index is the compendium of the dyes where every colorant is assigned a generic name and a constitution number. That has been the European dye industry and the US and the American dye industry also they have given the color index figure. Now, the process application based dye, because normally you see in the literature or in the process we are using the term acid dyes, bad dyes, dispersed dye, direct dye. So, let us see each and every definition of these dyes. Acid dyes are water soluble anionic dyes and insoluble in acid bath. Acid dyes are used for dyeing of the wool, silk, nylon, acrylic fiber, paper, leather. Basic dyes. Basic dyes are water soluble cationic dyes. Basic dyes are mostly amino and substituted amino compound. Basic dyes are used for dyeing acrylic fiber, cotton, wool and paper. Direct dyes. Direct dyes are used in a neutral or slightly alkaline dye bath without addition of mordant. Direct dyes are used for dyeing cotton, wool, silk, paper, nylon. They are generally azo dyes. Dispersed dyes. Dispersed dyes are used for dyeing for synthetic fiber like cellulose, acetate, polyester, nylon, and acrylic fiber. These dyes are applied as finely divided materials in presence of dispersing agent. Another type of the dyes is the vat dyes. Vat dyes have highly complex structure and are insoluble in water and are used after reduction in alkaline liquor which produces water soluble alkali salt. Reactive dyes. Reactive dyes react to form covalent bond which directly react with the fiber and provide excellent wash resistance, e.g. porcine, MX, cyberchrome and the dimethyl K. These are some of the reactive dyes, and as I told you, in case of all the dyes, the fastness of the color, that is very important, and especially wash resistance, because many of the case of the you must have observed that the text when you are having the cotton fabric, the color fading is more than your synthetic fibers. Modern dyes. Some dye combine with the metallic salt which improve the fastness of the dye. Chrome dye, potassium dichromate is used as the mordant. Azoic dyes. In azoic dyes, colors are made on the fiber by coupling diatoize materials which on contact the fiber, final color is controlled by choice of the diazic and the coupling components. Sulfur dye. Sulfur black dye is most commonly used sulfur dye. Color is produced by reacting sulfide and polysulfide with chlorinated aromatics. It is used for cotton cloth. Now the another, and its use, food dyes. Food grade dyes that is used is increasing day by day. Even you must have seen in the different shades of the color that is available, whether you are using the chocolates, whether you are going for the ice cream, whether you are going for the sweets. We are, or even in case of the various food grains also we are using the color. So the food dyes can be direct, mordant or the wet dyes, and are manufactured with high purity and precaution to meet the required standards that is there for the food grade. Especially the separate standards are there for the food grade dyes. So important dye is intermediate, because you see the one of the process is the first you make the intermediates and the final dyes are made. So before coming of the petrochemicals, aromatics derived from the coal chemicals were main source of dyes intermediate feedstock. That is the aromatics, benzene, toluene, xylene, naphthalenes, then are the major feedstock for making large number of intermediates. Because when you are talking about the aromatics, all the compounds, whether the benzoic acid or the phenol, bisphenol, these all being manufactured from the aromatics. Similarly, from the naphthalene, anthraquinone dyes, from the naphthalene, earlier it was the orthoxylene. When you are talking xylene, orthoxylene, phthalate anhydride, which is also being used in manufacture of the dyes, intermediate. So the important dye is intermediate, and if you see the list, most of the cases it is all the aromatic compound that we are using in some or other form, and this is chlorobenzene, nitrobenzene, and finally the aniline. This aniline that is being used as the intermediate for making of the number of the dyes, that is dimethyl aniline, cresol, benzoic acid, cressylic acid, cyclohexane, cyclohexanone, dichlorobenzene, phenol, bisphenol, salicylic acid. Salicylic acid also again a product we are getting from aniline, but salicylic, although salicylic acid huge amount of the that is being used in the medicine for making the aspirin, but here also this some of the uses of the salicylic acid there are there in dye as a dye intermediate. Nitrotoluenes, orthoxylene, paraxylene, phthalic anhydride, and resorcinol, naphthalenes, anthraquinone derivatives. So these are the various intermediates, and if you see that the manufacture of these and the cost reduction that has been there only because of the coming of the petrochemical complexes and the petroleum refinery from where we are getting the aromatics or the other petrochemicals. These are the various unit processes involved in dyes intermediate, that is the chlorination, nitration, sulfonation, amination by reduction, ammonolysis, alkylation, oxidation, condensation, addition reaction, nitration. Here the mixed acids, in some of the cases we are using the mixed acid. So the use of the nitric acid and sulfuric acid both are there. Similarly, the chlorination, for that we need the chlorine, so the requirement of the chlorine that will be there. So ammonia is also that is needed. Alkylation, the same we already discussed about the alkylation process, what are the alkylating media that we are having. So these are the some of the major unit processes involved in making of the dyes intermediate. Now let us come to the individual intermediate and some of the compound. Dimethyl aniline is the key precursor to malachite green and the crystal violet. Initially it was prepared by heating aniline and indomethane. Industrially it is produced by alkylation of the aniline with methanol in presence of an acid catalyst. So this is the many application, large application of the aniline as the chemical intermediate is there. Orthochlorobenzoic acid, again benzoic acid, either the toluene route that you can make the benzoic acid. It may be synthesized by the oxidation of 2-chlorotoluene with the potassium permanganate. It can also be synthesized by diazotization, which follow Sandmeyer reaction. Para-nitrobenzoic acid is prepared by oxidation of 4-nitrotoluene using oxygen or nitric acid as an oxidant. Alternatively, it can also be prepared by nitration of polystyrene followed by oxidation of alkyl substituent. Beta naphthol, that is one of the very important dye intermediate used as the coupling component for manufacture of widely used azo dyes. Beta naphthol is manufactured by fusing two naphthalene sulfonic acid with caustic soda. So, beta naphthol earlier, because now there is ban on the azo dye, otherwise the beta naphthol that was considered one of the very important dye intermediate. Alpha naphthol is manufactured by heating one naphthalene sulfonic acid with caustic alkali or by heating one naphthylamine with water under pressure. Resorcinol is a key dyestuff intermediate widely used as a coupling component for a variety of azo dyes belonging to various classes such as direct, acid, reactive and dispersed dye. It is also an important monomer for the production of the polymers, especially the polyesters derived from the resorcinols. Derivatives of the resorcinols have also found use as sunscreen agent and UV stabilizers. Gamma acid belongs to the class of hydroxyl naphthalene monosulfonic acid, is a key intermediate used as a diazo and the coupling component for the manufacture of commercial dyes belonging to the class of direct acid, mordant and reactive dyes. This is the manufacturing process. G salt is subjected to Biff-Schuh reaction with liquor ammonia in presence of sodium bisulfide in aqueous solution under pressure in an autoclave to obtain amido G salt, which then subjected to alkali fusion with excess of caustic soda flakes, then neutralized with 40% sulfuric acid to isolate the gamma acid. Tobias acid is an important dye intermediate belonging to the class of aminonaphthalene monosulfonic acid. It is used in the manufacture of a number of reactive, direct, acid and acid mordant dyes. Methylic acid, 6-chloromethylic acid is a key diazo component used as intermediate in the manufacture of variety of direct and acid dyes which are used to dye cotton and wool. And one is called the methylic yellow. This is the manufacturing process for the methylic acid. Orthonitochlorobenzene is sulfonated with oleum to have the ONCV parasulfonic acid, then reduced with iron and concentrated hydrochloric acid at 95 to 100 degrees centigrade in 5 to 6 hours. The filtrate is acidified to have the 6-chloromethylic acid, which is centrifuged and dried. Anthraquinone 1-sulfonic acid, sodium salt. This is all its derivatives are important building block for variety of dyestuffs, in particular for dispersed solvent and acid dyes. Here we are using the for the anthraquinone 1-sulfonic acid, sodium salt. We are using the phthalic anhydride. Again, as I told you earlier also, the two routes are available for phthalic anhydride. One is from orthoxylene and another is from the naphthalene route. So, now the most of the phthalic anhydride that is being manufactured by the orthoxylene route. So, phthalic anhydride is treated with benzene in excess of the aluminum chloride as catalyst, gives orthobenzyl benzoic acid in form of a aluminum complex, BOB future subjected to cyclization and sulfonation in presence of the mercury salt as a catalyst to obtain anthraquinone 1-sulfonic acid. Dark blue is a white dye containing 2 or more keto group which has great affinity for cellulosic fiber. This is the process where we are using the naphthalene and sodium acetate for making of the dark blue bow. Naphthalene and sodium acetate with molten mixture of NaOH or QH are added, time 1.25 hours at 185 degrees centigrade. Then crude benzothrone heated over 4 hours. The dye which separates out is filtered through filter press and washed well with hot water. 1,4 dihydroxyquinone, that is the quinagerine. It is made by reaction of the phthalic anhydride and 4-chlorophenol followed by hydrolysis. So, this was about the dyes manufacture, dyes and intermediate, and we discussed about the what are the importance of the dyes in our daily life, because most of the material always there is people are going for the colorful material, and so the dyes and intermediates they are going to play important role, and at the same time availability of the one of the driving force for the dyes industry, that has been the development of the synthetic fiber industry, coming of the synthetic fiber industry and the development of the textile industry, and at the same time availability of the raw material from the petrochemical route. So, this was all about the organic chemical industry. We discussed from the starting from the introduction, various processes, unit process involved in organic chemical, what are the raw material for the organic chemical industry. Then we discuss about some of the important sector of the organic, sugar, alcohol, and then the soap, detergent, petroleum industry, petrochemical, and then the polymer, elastomer, synthetic fiber, and then about the pesticide, role of the pesticide, and then the dyes and intermediate. So, although the some portion of the organic chemical technology course could not be covered, but because it is not possible everything in one actually the course module, and so this was the a brief efforts to discuss about the organic chemical industry, and they were thankful to the various actually the sources from where the information that has been collected, and especially to the from the net and from the your this hydrocarbon processing, where the lot of the information that is taken in the petroleum and the petrochemical chapter, and the your polymer and the elastomer and the your this. And one thing I can mention here in this was because all the beautiful diagram that has been done by or one of the research scholar Chandrakant Thakur, and we acknowledge his contribution in the development of this course, in making of the various slides, in making of the various diagrams for making your presentation more attractive.